February 2024 CEC monthly general, and we will begin the meeting. Carly, please do the roll call.
Wing Yu,
Present.
Karoon Rashid is on, I guess I'll come on. Frank Chow on Joseph Chow, Sung Young Lee. Present. Alvin Hung, Eden Rubinstein. Present. Robert Lazard.
Present.
Catherine Pierre.
Present.
Laura. Johnson.
Present.
I'm gonna say that's Karoon? Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yes,
John.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, and Jocelyn Chen. Here. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for being with us here tonight. We have a long agenda. We're going to start a little in a little different order, just for this evening. Because we know that there are some parents and staff from PS 193 that's on the call, and there's some concerns that they have with the heating at the school. So we want to give them the opportunity to speak. And then and also whoever else is on the Zoom call or in person that want to make an announcement, they will be able to do so. And then I will introduce Joseph Kessler from UFT. He has a few announcements. And we also have our past CEC President, Joseph Di Benedetto, who is here with us tonight. And I will give him a few minutes to speak as well. And Principal David Abbott from Bell Academy. So, and then we will go on with our agenda. So if there's anyone on the call on Zoom that want to speak, you can raise your hand and we will unmute you. Is there anyone here in person that want to speak as well? If you raise your hand, I can see you. Okay.
Well, when the time comes, you want me to call? I mean, I'd like to speak.
Okay. All right. I will call it. Are there anyone from? Okay. So in that case. Okay.
From Diana, would you like to speak?
Diana, yeah, we will unmute you. Diana, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah. Oh, she can't. Okay. Hold on. Why? That's yeah. Should be able to unmute yourself now.
Carly, can you make Esther colors?
I don't see it. Oh, that's it.
Okay.
The chat, but
You can't.
I made her call, then I asked her to unmute.
All right.
I mean, I know what it's about if you like me to.
Yeah.
Right.
We've been getting emails at the district, so I will have Dr. Mike Dantona, our superintendent, to speak on this issue.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for this. I've been receiving a number of questions and concerns from the 193 community as it relates to the current boiler project that is coming towards the completion. I know There's been concern just around the current temporary boiler, and when they'll be moving over into the new one. They do have an anticipated completion date by mid-February. So they're talking about within the next couple of weeks. I can't guarantee any of that because I'm certainly not someone who does any of that fixing stuff. But what I can say is that they are very well aware of the concerns, and they're very well aware of the expectations of the community to get the project completed. I'm not sure what the finishing touches are that are necessary between SEA, who's working on the project, to have that final installation completed. I know there were some concerns around the fumes. They are working to install and seal each of the windows to make sure that it's more secure on the outside. They have been engaging in testing of the air quality to make sure that it was not unsafe, for the kids to be in those classrooms. But I do understand the concern from our parents, and what I will say is that we're going to continue to work on. I'm engaging in outreach on a routine basis, as well as Principal Zabrowski, to support the completion of the project, but also to address the concerns from the community. So I do know this is an important one, and we're going to continue to work towards getting to a resolution as soon as we possibly can.
Thank you, Dr. Mike.
Sure.
At this time, Mr. Kessler?
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Joe Kessler. I'm the former UFP District 25 rep, and I currently work as a special assistant to either the vice president or president for various things. Quickly, a couple of things. I don't get emotional, and I know there are other people that may speak on this, but last Saturday we lost a friend, an icon to our district, Councilman Paul Ballone. And those of you who didn't know Paul, for 8 years, he represented the council, and he was unbelievable to our district. There wasn't an event he did not go to that he was invited to. A true family man, 3 wonderful children, and regardless of political party, everybody loved Paul. And I'm still not over it. I spoke to him on Friday, passed away on Saturday, unexpectedly. But he was a giant in our district. And parents loved him, always with that smile, with the graduations. And it's really a very tough loss. And his family was always in the political scene, but Paul came in and rather unknown, but became very quickly attached to us. I just want people to think about that. And I know we have some others that are going to speak on it. So a happier note that I spoke to Wing about a couple of things. The Broadway League, the theater. The chancellor and the mayor have an initiative that every child before they graduate would see a Broadway show. And in conjunction with the UFT, they give out tickets to certain Broadway plays. Last night I was a chaperone, so I got to see a good one. District 26 school. We've had 2 schools in our district, 379 and 185. And next fall, we'll be looking for another 2 schools. The city is tremendous. So, I mean, there's high school pieces. This is for basically 8th grade students that really want to take music to the next level. They've really enjoyed it, the feedback. So it's a real nice thing to do. The third piece quickly is this rumor about a charter school coming into our district. It's not fact, but I just want us to be aware of it. People come up to me, some electeds come up to me, and the school that's supposed to be down in Bay Terrace, that was in the process of any time it's supposed to start breaking ground, has not because of budget reasons, but that's going to go through. That's the area that we're hearing may become a charter school. And so we have to keep our eye on it. The UFP strongly is against it because it's taking funding away from our children in this district. This is one district that does not need a charter. I go to bat that our elementary and middle schools and many of our high schools are top notch, some of the best in the city. So that's something that we have to look at. It could just be rumors, but there are some political people that are giving us hints that there is going to be a push to make that a charter school now. And with the expansion of Bell, that changes a lot of things for us. So just please keep an eye on it. And when people ask me, again, why are the UFP against it? It takes public money from us, even though they call it a public school, a charter school. It takes money away from our district. And I know it's a budget night, so just for that. And the last piece is another happy thing, Lunar New Year. I went to a celebration. They sent me today to PS 203 in District 26. And I know 25, I was talking to Eden about some of the schools that are doing the celebrations. And, our kids are magnificent. And I've gone to many of them in District 25 as well. And it's just something to be really proud of. And the Lunar New Year celebration officially is Saturday, but the schools are doing things throughout. And it's just wonderful to see parent involvement, the children and the staff really, really puts together a wonderful thing. So you should share some of these events because that's what it's about. We enjoy the celebration, and I'm glad David's here because when there's something really exciting happening, I always get an invitation, and you just see those kids on stage. And a principal once said to me when I would argue sometimes that how do you do plays in the middle of this day in with ELA and math, and this principal said to me, Joe, there may only be one time that a kid shines on a auditorium stage. Oh. And that told me right there. And I told the teachers, this is all part of education. Mm-hmm. We all have a little niche. And I always think of it when I see children on stage because they're like shining stars. So I want to wish everybody a happy Lunar New Year that celebrate. And that's my report.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tesla. And now I'm going to introduce our CEC President, Joseph DiBenedetto. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
I wish you were sitting here rather than
that don't know me, I served on the Community Education Council for almost 10 years. And I congratulate all of you who are serving now. It's not a easy job, but the rewards are great. And my kids graduated out, so I can no longer serve. So I want them. Thank you for having me at your meeting. I'm also here because when I served on the Community Education Council, I had the pleasure of meeting Paul Malone. And as Joe said, he passed away. And my understanding is that you are looking to rename a school. David Abbott, as principal of Bell Academy, is looking to rename the school in honor of Paul Malone. I have to tell you that I met Paul Malone when he served as the city council member. I was on the CEC. He was so proud of his community. He was definitely focused on education. He was very proud of the Bell Academy and the PS 169 campus. He had his inauguration there. We spoke at high school graduations for Bell Academy. We spoke at the school. He had his family come, and his family's well connected politically. So he was very proud of District 25. So I just, encourage you that, I know that you have to take this on for a vote this evening. And, I think that it's the right thing to do, but it's your choice. My understanding is you have to vote on it. So
okay.
I'm here to support him and support you guys. And I wish you lots of luck. And even though I'm not on the council, I'm always reachable. So
thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Principal David Abbott, would you like to say a few words also?
Very brief.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
So good evening, everyone. To add on to my two colleagues and friends, I certainly share in the loss of our extremely supportive council member. Principal Rosa and I recall the day he was inaugurated on our stage. And he made a commitment to us and to our students and to the facility. And he wasn't just about words, he was about action. And within the first few years in office, he totally redid the seats in our auditorium to make them accessible for handicapped students. He was always on hand with a smile to greet students, to celebrate students. And the fact that the superintendent, Principal Rosa, and I were able to engage in conversations to acknowledge and recognize his name and let his legacy live on in such a meaningful way. We're just very touched. And we look forward to your vote. So thank you all.
Thank you, Principal Abbott. Okay. So we will take the vote on naming Bell Academy later on tonight. So a few things. So on January 25th, there was a Parents and District Leadership Summit. We were invited to go, Dr. Mike, I, Shirley, who's next to me, Esther Maluto in the back, and Jenny Singh. We went to the summit and we CECs from all over the district, parent leaders, district leaders, and it was a very good event, and we hope to collaborate with other CECs in district in future events. We had thought that we will get to speak with the, other CECs on, what are some of the challenges or struggles they're facing, but we were, instead we were discussing on our own, how we can improve our own district. So hopefully this will be an annual event, and I hope the other CEC member will be able to join us. So that's that. Now I'm going to turn to Dr. Mike. We have a fair student funding presentation tonight, which I think Dr. Mike, you are giving that presentation, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have two things. Okay, do you mind if we just
Oh, yeah.
reverse those or do the superintendent report and then okay, perfect. Okay, good evening, everyone. Before I get started, I do want to just express on behalf of the Dantona and Elson family, thank you so very much to everyone here on the Community Education Council for your support with which was a very difficult time. I know that we spoke about Councilmember Valone, but I also had a unfortunate sudden loss in my own family. And the outreach from the CEC was truly, truly appreciated and very well noticed by certainly not just by myself, but my wife. As soon as she walked into the services, one of the first things she noticed was the fact that there were flowers from you guys. So I thank you so very, very much for the outreach and support. It was very, very, very much appreciated. So thank you guys so much for that. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about a number of things, including Carly, can you make me a host, please? Including a small snapshot on data. I'm going to have to do more of that in March. I tried to get through it as much as I could in terms of analysis. The window doesn't officially close until Friday, so we still have kids that haven't completed it yet. But I'm going to talk to you about K-2 tonight, and then we'll finish up with 3 to 8 in March, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, let's share the screen. Okay. No, you're good. Just quick reminders and updates. We've shared this a number of times, but 3K pre-K applications, windows already open for those of our families that are in this space of March 1st is the deadline, so please make sure that we are in the process of engaging those applications. If you're having a struggle, please don't hesitate, reach out to us, and we'll be able to point you in the right direction. Offers will be released in May for both 3K and pre-K. G&T, Monday, April 15th, G&T upper grade application opens. Friday, May 3rd, G&T application for upper grades closes, and offers will be sent June 12th. Just a quick January recap. We do have our monthly newsletter that is present. I encourage you guys to tap into that. Marissa does an amazing job of organizing just the events that have been going on across our district schools, celebrating the things that are happening on a routine basis, including Martin Luther King Jr. Day. In honor of Dr. King, we did have our schools engage in a variety of different activities, including an exhibit that was sent to New York State, a series of artwork pieces by our kids from PS20 as an example here of some of the work that was being done. And you can see how really nicely our kids have put that work together. Just a quick reminder, a couple of weeks ago, we did a bicycle and scooter safety workshop and a traffic safety workshop at PS 120. Thank you to Mr. Marino, and JHS 185. Thank you to Mr. Leung for hosting both of those events. They were both recorded. We had translation in Chinese and Spanish was made available for our community members. I do encourage our families that have their kids on bicycles, that have their kids on scooters, for parents that are on scooters or bicycles, that they are paying attention to the rules of the road, because what we are seeing is unfortunately not so much of that happening, where kids are getting hurt, families are getting hurt because of a lack of understanding around this particular important safety rules and regulations. Our special education parent learning opportunity, we had it on January 23rd. All resources and the recording is there as well if you were unable to make it. It was well attended for both the morning and the afternoon, and the feedback that we're receiving has been positive. I think our families do appreciate that we are offering these additional resources, especially in the area of special education. So if you do have questions and you were unable to attend, there is a video recording of the Zoom meeting available to you. Queens North Spelling Bee, again, thank you to 185 for hosting on January 24th and 5th. Some of our students participated in the Spelling Bee. Congratulations to Jeffrey from JHS 185 for earning first place in the Spelling Bee, which was across districts 24, 26, and 30. So we're very proud of him and for all the students who participated. Special shout out to Ms. Willens from our team, as well as Nathan for participating and making it a very, very productive event for our district community, as well as our other districts across Queens. Project Soapbox, super excited about this. If you're not aware about Project Soapbox, ask your schools about it. It's really about promoting this idea of getting our kids into a space where they're engaging in research and then sharing their perspectives around things that they believe should be adjusted or changed. So a few of them come in today just around bullying, cyberbullying, and how children are using their voice to prevent some of those things from happening, and not just in their own community, across communities. So it's really quite impressive listening to our kids as they really speak from a space of knowledge, but more importantly, speaking from a space of taking a stand. And I think that's combining those two things promotes a really valuable learning experience for our kids, not only for now, but as they move into high school and beyond. Civics for All, very much tied into this work. We have our kids and schools participating in a variety of different activities. Our schools all of our schools received a participatory budget, which means it allows our kids to really have a voice in how those dollars will be spent in their buildings. You know, and it's interesting the things that kids wind up coming up with. Some of them, unfortunately, not necessarily realistic with the amount of money that they do get. But needless to say, they come up with really clever ideas as to how they can help support improvements within their own schools. So please encourage you guys to connect with your building leaders around what's happening in your buildings in that regard. Wendy shared earlier just around the Parent Leadership Summit that we were able to participate in on January 25th. So Wendy, Shirley, myself, and Jenny, Esther, and Beverly all were able to participate, and certainly Chief Domingo managed to get in there for a nice photo op with us too. But there are a few things that I do want to highlight based on this summit. Our conversations led us to identifying 3 areas that we want to commit to moving forward as a collective group. And these 3 things are as follows. Working more diligently to ensure that, you know, we're attending to language needs. Although we do a good job in terms of, you know, translation support and, you know, with letters and things of that nature, it's about making sure that we have continuous access at district community events as well as CEC meetings moving forward, something that Shirley, Wendy, and the team kind of organized our thoughts around. Continue to build parent engagement opportunities that are relational in nature for students, parents, and staff. You know, what we have seen is, and I know some of you have actually participated in some of our First Friday events. I know, Bob, you had gone to one yourself, and hundreds of parents showed up because it was about being connected with their kids inside of the classrooms to support student learning. So it's how do we build on more of those opportunities where kids and families are working together to instead of, you know, nothing wrong with the workshop, nothing wrong with the training, but we're not as excited about that as we are going to do that with our kids. So the more we can organize that is kind of what we talked about at that meeting. And lastly was around developing subcommittees within our district leadership team to support some of our district goals. But this was really a valuable experience for us. Yes, Wendy, I thought it was a very valuable opportunity for us to chat. I think moving forward, maybe they'll make some adjustments in terms of communicating across other districts and boroughs. February's Black History Month, really super important for all of our communities. Our schools are engaging in work throughout the month to really focus on our Black history as well as important historical figures within our Black culture. So our schools will be engaging in that work throughout the month. So certainly inquire at your buildings as well. I'm going to share one thing that just happened today with Principal Neely that was really super nice. Connected both Lunar New Year as well as Black History Month, and including one of our district leadership team members. Shirley Aubin was tapped to go over to 165 today to engage in World Read Aloud Day today, which was connected to our space around Black History Month and Lunar New Year. So what I understand, and judging from the pictures, it was a really nice day for all of them. Happy National School Counselors Week. Thank you to all of our school counselors within our school communities for working really hard to support the social emotional learning needs of our parents and students. Really working hard to support our kids on a daily basis. As I mentioned, happy Lunar New Year, Year of the Dragon. Wishing all of our communities a very prosperous new year filled with health, happiness, and success. You can see across our schools, I know that Mr. Kessler mentioned this earlier, but activities and supporting Lunar New Year was evident across our buildings recently and will be moving forward. This is what I just mentioned, World Read Aloud Day. Really exciting. Shirley went into several of our classrooms reading with our kids, as well as Miss Neely and Ms. Klager, a former district principal, now working with the central office, went and engaged over 100 children in the auditorium to promote reading across their buildings. This is an outgrowth district-wide iReady Parent Workshop. This is an outgrowth from our last CEC meeting. One of the requests was that we open up opportunities for our families to really learn more about the iReady platform and what it can do for you as parents. And this is really super important. Right now, we only have maybe 20, it was the last check, 20 parents that were registered. I do encourage our families to connect with this opportunity. We will have someone from iReady themselves to be able to share with parents how do we make effective use of the platform to support. Right now is the end of the diagnostic window. So the best time to learn about what's going on, particularly for kids in grades 3 to 8, for the iReady assessment in reading and K to 8 in math, is to get an idea of what do I do with this at home? You know, how do I use this for myself as a parent to best support my child? So I encourage you guys, take advantage of this. You know, we will continue to create opportunities as necessary from our community at the district level, but our schools are also doing this. So we're doing it at the district-wide space, but our schools are doing it as well.
I will be there.
Great, yes. This one's also really important to me. March 5th, we have NYPD coming in to do a cyberbullying training at JHS 194. Reason this is important is because, you know, sometimes as parents, we don't always necessarily see everything that our kids are doing on those devices that they have. And sometimes it leads to bigger problems than they're worth. And our kids don't necessarily realize either that some of the things that they put down on those, in that Snapchat or the Instagram, or, you know, you name the app, that once it's out there, and it becomes a big problem for them in the end. So we do want to make sure that we're educating our families as well as our parents, as well as our students, around the dangers of cyberbullying, and how do we make good choices with the devices that we have. I mentioned this during our last CEC, but it's important just to continue to promote it. Sponsored with our council member Palladino, American Debate League. Again, we'll be participating here in District 25. February 27th is when it will occur. Opening ceremony at 3:20 and award ceremony at 7 o'clock at IS 25. Last year was a huge success, and we know that this year will be as well. So this brings me to the conversation that I know that you have heard from a few people already. But in hearing about the untimely passing of former council member Vallone, one of the first things that did pop into my mind was creating an opportunity to honor a gentleman who, while I may not have known him as well as others, I have met him a number of times, and in each of those moments that I had a chance to be in his presence, he was always there as a support, and support for all schools, but in particular for for the Bell and 169 community. So knowing that, and knowing part of the chancellor's regulations around renaming of schools, there are a couple of parts of the process. One, it's about the building leaders themselves connecting with the parent-teacher associations of their buildings, making sure that they engage in a conversation with them around the renaming, to also get feedback from them around this, which was done by both 169 and Bell Academy. And parents from both of those communities were on board with this type of change. More importantly, former council member Vallone's family needed to be on board with said naming first and foremost, and they were more than happy, and that's not even the right words not coming to my mind, but I know that they were truly honored by the idea that such a thing could happen for Councilmember Vallone. So we just have a very, very short video that the schools did put together that I do want to show you, and I will play it for you guys. Oh, no, I did not. Hold on, let me stop share and then reshare. Sorry, guys. So, sorry. So the community came up with the name of the campus
Mhm.
so that both schools sustain their likeness as PS 169 and Bell Academy. But in front of that, the Paul Vallone Educational Community. How did it go, Mr. Abbott?
Community campus.
Paul Vallone Community Campus, PS 169 and Bell Academy. So I present that to you as part of the chancellor's regulations and you as a CEC body to engage in that in the space of conversation. And then part of that would be for you guys to have a vote as to whether or not you approve this to move forward to present to the chancellor's office.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mike. Very nice video. Unfortunately, I have not had the pleasure to meet a former council member, Paul Vallone. But from what I gather and hear, he was a great supporter of our community and the Bay Terrace community. And I want to hear, are there anyone on the council who have met and know him? Bob, you wanna?
Sure. So I've met Paul Vallone on a number of occasions. As Principal Abbott mentioned, he was sworn in at PS 169 Bell Academy, and my son was there for that. So that's something that we certainly remember. And then I would frequently participate in the Bell Academy's Career Day, which Councilmember Paul Vallone would be at as well. So I had opportunities to engage with him there, and saw firsthand his care for the community and education, and in particular that campus, the Bell Academy. So that's my experience.
Thank you, Bob. Joseph, Mr. Chow, do you want to say something? You look distressed. Do you want to say any input?
Yes.
Yeah.
I met him, I don't remember where, but he's a young man that.
Any other members that want to, if they have any experience or your thoughts on naming the 169 Bell Academy to the Paul Vallone Community Campus? Would you all be ready to take on a vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
and I'm supportive of it.
Okay. And Karum, are you on? Do we need this vote? We have quorum, okay. Carly?
Ready?
Yeah.
All right.
And just to be clear, the vote then is to make the recommendation to the chancellor. Okay, got it.
For me to then extend the
Yes.
I have to then do the paperwork to send.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
When you,
I vote yes.
Karoon Rashid, Senior. Frank Chow. Joseph Chow.
Yes.
Sung Young Lee,
Yes.
Alvin Hung,
Yes.
Eden Rubinstein. Yeah. Robert Laverne,
Yes.
Catherine St. Pierre. Yeah. John Stewart,
Yes.
what do you think, Jocelyn? Yes. Okay.
Okay, so we've all voted for yes to the renaming of to renaming PS 169 and Bell Academy under the Paul Vallone Community Campus. Okay, so.
So what I will do is, I think probably the only thing that I would need is the minutes indicating that that this is something that came across at the Community Education Council. And that it was unanimously voted upon as in favor of. And then I will take that information, and if there are a series of documents that I have to complete to send to the chancellor's office for approval. The reason why we're doing this now is there's a March deadline for the following year. Otherwise, you would not be able to do it again until the year after that. So it was certainly a timely type of scenario that we were hoping to get done. Because more than anything else, I just felt it was right.
Yeah.
The right thing to do. So I thank you guys for hearing that proposal, and certainly thank the PS 169 and Bell Academy communities for agreeing that this is a nice thing to do.
Mhm.
Okay. So just a quick Acadians reading performance data snapshot for everyone. I will be doing, as I said, K-2. I have just one little slide for grades 3 to 8 that I will mention as well. And then next month, I will share the rest of the district data with you. We are seeing some progress for our kids in terms of Acadians in grades K-2 when we're comparing winter 23 to winter 24. Currently, 57.5% of students who completed Acadians reading Acadians assessment are on or at or above grade level, compared to 54.87 from last school year. The goal is to surpass 58% by 5% this school year, which we are.
We'll have to sleep over another night, okay?
Which we are on
I'll
track.
stay with you now.
Which we are on track to do. That's okay. Which we are on track to do at this point. Okay. So we do have our bar graphs as I typically share with you guys to kind of lay out what that progress looks like over time. And you can see across grades K-2 that we are in, we have made improvements. The one area that we do continue to see, space for ongoing growth is, sustaining our efforts over time. When we're talking about our kids, particularly in grade 2, they tend to, and I'm actually noticing that I have to correct something on the 2022-23 MOI slide. That information needs to be fixed. The data is relatively close when we're talking about performance in grade 2. We wind up seeing a little bit of a dip when we get into second grade mid-year. The goal is that we are able to get beyond that 60% point for all of our grades in K1 and 2 moving into the end of the school year. So it's really pushing ourselves forward from this point. Our Hispanic learners have also seen growth where we've improved by a little over 2.5% from where we were last year. The goal is that we're able to reach a minimum of that 5% by the end of the year for that particular subgroup. Certainly, 40% is not where we want to be, so we have to continue to push on that. But we are seeing progress, and I do think it has a lot to do with the implementation of programs like Hegarty and Foundations inside of our schools. You will see again similar chart noting the what's happening across grade levels. Across K-2, there is that slight uptick. We will see a little bit of a nudge for this particular subgroup in grade 2. And a little bit of a nudge in kindergarten. The other grade 1 remains a little bit flat. Our Black learners, this as part of our district leadership team is a subgroup that we will come back to. And the reason why we're going to come back to is because at this point of the year, we will have already surpassed that 5% expectation that we set at the beginning of the year. So we're going to go back to recalibrate what our expectations are going to be here. So we continue to elevate from where we are and not just stay okay with 5%. That's where we are now. The goal is that we exceed that by the end of the year. So, happy that we're making progress there, but still a lot more work that needs to be done. And again, you can see through the chart at your leisure. Our Asian learners, current 65.7% of our Asian learners in K-2 are currently at or above grade level compared to last school year at this time, which was 63%. So we have seen progress. Goal is that we're surpassing that near 67% mark by 5%. I do believe that we are going to make that goal as well. At this point of the year, we're mid-year, we're already approaching where we were at the end of last school year. So the goal is that we're going to continue to make those gains moving forward. Our white learners, 65.43% of our white learners currently at or above grade level, comparatively speaking to 62.71% from last year. goal was to surpass the 63%, just under 63% from last school year. So we are already above that benchmark. The goal is to continue to push within with our all students populations to really grow and continue to impact our learners. The more we can get our kids as proficient readers in K-2, the stronger they're going to be in grades 3 and up when they're moving from that learning to read to reading to learn space. So we are seeing progress, but still obviously a lot more growth that is necessary. And you'll see that in a couple of slides coming forward. And this particular subgroup is one that we need to continue to push on. Our English language learners have remained relatively flat from where they were last year at this time. What I will say is while it's remained flat, we are testing about 400 more L's this year than we did last year. So we have a lot more children that are English language learners than we have in the past. We are getting to a space where we can still reach this goal, but we have to recalibrate as a DLT around this particular subgroup, which we will do when we have our DLT on Monday. It should have all of our stuff ready by then. But at any rate, it is a subgroup that we need to continue to work towards. Our students with disabilities, this is something that's actually really, really interesting for me and continue to unpack. Nearly 53% of our students with disabilities are currently at or above grade level compared to 38.59% last school year. So this needs to be revisited because I have to unpack really what this means and see what it is that that is happening with our students with disabilities, because that is promising progress there. So because this is all new and fresh, I have to unpack more to make sure that what I'm seeing is in fact the case. So needless to say, I'm going to revisit this. This is at kind of like that first glance. I'm going to revisit to make sure that this is all copacetic. But first glance, this is what it has shown to me, and we will come back to it moving forward. Now, what I will say about grades 3 to 8, my initial digging in is that we are, and this is unbelievable to me, that we are in the identical percentage from where we were last year at mid-year to this year. Now, it doesn't mean that we didn't make progress in fall to winter, but it does say that we are in the same space winter to winter as we were last year. So we're going to continue to revisit where we are. We're going to talk about this during our DLT meeting. And I'll hopefully be able to unpack it a lot more between now and Monday. As I mentioned, Friday is the last full day of testing, and then it's all makeups for anyone else that wasn't able to be there. So I'll talk more about iReady screening data in both reading and math, as well as MAP during the March meeting. But again, the data is here for you guys to peruse and look at. But certainly promising information in our K-2 and building our kids as readers in the earlier grades. Our real goal now is, and messaging that I will have for all of our schools is, while this is promising, it's only as promising as how we now take from where we are to the finish line to make sure that we're surpassing and going beyond what we have at mid-year. Because things, obviously, they don't get easier, they get harder for our kids as the year progresses in kindergarten, in first grade, in second grade. The expectations change. So for where a kindergartner was in September, the benchmark level changes for them in January, February. Then the benchmark changes again in terms of what they need to reach by the time they get to the end of the year. So it's not a level playing field. It keeps elevating that bar so that our kids can reach those expectations to be readers. So while we're promising now, it's about finishing really, really strong in all of our schools, especially for our early childhood children. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about that part before I move into budget fund?
I have just a general question
Yeah.
about the iReady assessment. Is that not to be used to individually? Like, for example, I got results for my daughter's test, but I have no idea what they mean. You know what I mean? Is there like a scale we can look at that compares? Does it change every year?
Yeah, so this is a nationally normed assessment, and it'll put kids into into spaces. Now kindergartners, because they don't have really a frame of reference to go anywhere below one grade level below. They're not going to put a kid who's in kindergarten at 2 grade levels below. So the scale goes from mid or above early on. 1 grade level below is usually where we wind up seeing all of our kindergartners lie. They don't really fall below that.
Yeah.
But what they do get is a percentile rank, just to give you an idea as parents in terms of where is my child performing in terms of nationally against 6 buckets. It's phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, and comprehension. High frequency words, vocabulary, and comprehension. But for iReady purposes, we're asking that our schools are implementing that in grades 3 through 8 as our screener. It doesn't mean that schools can't implement it in grades in kindergarten, but our screener for K-2 is really the Acadience assessment, which is the one that I just presented you now.
And that's different.
It's a little bit different from what iReady does ask. Acadience is really focused on the basic foundational skills that our kids need, which is in that phonemic awareness space, in that phonics space, which is really the building blocks for readers. So as a parent, one of the things that we will also do here at the district level, but we should be also asking at the school level, is the supports for around Acadience. Do we know what those reports are that come back from those assessments too? Because you need to be aware of it. Yeah, that's important. Something that I will certainly note.
You said the window's not closed.
Yeah.
Maybe they have.
Window does not close until Friday. Window doesn't close until Friday, but that's something that I will take a note of for sure. Any other Acadience-based questions? Okay. Okay. But please don't hesitate if there are other things that are on your mind in relationship to that. Those reports are only as good as what you can look at them as a parent, you know, and if you're not sure what they mean, they're not going to be very helpful for you.
Is there anything like district-wide or citywide where like the scales are available? We been talking to a lot of people, my daughter's practice, other kindergarten practice at 32. And we're looking, like we're Googling, we've seen something like Florida, you know what I'm saying? But there's nothing like on the New York DOE that says this is what the scale scores are, this is what, you know, this is where.
Yeah, there are absolutely scales, 100%. That's something we can certainly offer moving forward so you can get an idea.
Okay.
I think, you know, just in general, you know, the scale score may or may not be helpful for you as a parent, as much as it is the skills that go along with, you know, what's going to allow for a proficient reader. You know, can they separate the sounds within a word? You know, by listening and hearing it, you know, can they look at a word and be able to help start decoding it, you know, with the nonsense words and fluency that they're asked to do. So it's really the skills that are embedded in there, because there are a lot of things that we can do as parents with our kids when they are that young, that are, you know, that we might not even really be thinking about, that are very simple that we can do. You know, and sometimes the way that we actually even enunciate and pronounce our words can impact our child's ability to read them. Because we add in our own, you know, they refer to it as a schwa. We make things a lot longer than perhaps they're supposed to be. And our kids hear it, and then when they see it in terms of the written form, they're not able to make those connections. So, you know, some of that stuff is part of the Acadience assessment. Yeah.
Do the scores break down into the different buckets?
Yeah.
They do.
They
So
do.
you would see like my child is pretty strong in like the phonemic awareness, but not necessarily as strong in another area.
So they'll break them down into the components. So for kids, and I know you have a kindergartner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in kindergarten, they start the year with first sound fluency. The one thing with first sound fluency is it's not then represented again in January, which what we've asked our schools to do is make sure that we're giving assessments in between to make sure that our kids are in a good space with that. From there, then it's around this idea of phoneme segmentation, where they're able to kind of hear the sounds in the words and kind of pull them pull them apart.
It's aligned with the curriculum, like that part of the curriculum has already been like thoroughly, worked on in the classroom, that, so they should be up to that.
So it's all part of where, based on this particular assessment, kids should be able to do at this age. It doesn't mean that
Integrity and.
Haggerty and foundations is all part of the skills that they would learn in order to do well in on an Acadians assessment. Yeah, those are all building blocks inside of that space. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But those are really great questions. And what this is actually showing me is that something that we will do, provided, and if there's not time during one of these meetings, we'll open up an Acadian space for everyone to make sure that everyone's aware and feels comfortable around the assessment, what it measures and how we can use it. I think back in October is when I actually went over it with you guys, space by space. And Catherine, you weren't here yet at that point. But that's kind of what I shared with you guys. It's kind of in terms of here's what happens when it's phoneme segmentation. Here's what happens when it's first sound fluency, so that families had an idea. But that's something we can do on a larger scale to make sure that you guys feel comfortable in what is being asked of your kids.
Or even just like putting it on like a website somewhere so you could like see it, like John was saying, like you could just break down like,
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
if you're in the 90th percentile, if you're in the 50th percentile, if your number is this, and.
Yeah, we can certainly,
to kind of
we can walk you guys through that.
reference
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty, let me go into the next presentation, which is the budget space, which is not letting me, why this always does this. You can see my screen.
You stop.
Yeah. There it goes. Wasn't letting me grab it. I know. So funny. And I was only a PC guy. And since all I use is Macs. Okay. School budgets. So I'm happy to be here today with Paula Latito, who is our budget support here in District 25. Paula is amazing, and I thank her for being here to support me in the delivery of this budget presentation. And she supports all of our schools directly and helps them kind of organize at the beginning of the budget period. Which tends to be in July to help support the process. Paula is front and center for all of that work. So every spring, the panel of educational policy votes on the New York City Public Schools budget allocation formula for the following school year, which is known as the Fair Student Funding Formula. In preparation for this event, superintendents and borough-based support staff present the New York City Public Schools proposed FSF budget allocation for the fiscal year 2024 to all community education councils. The purpose of today's presentation is to review the New York City Public Schools budget and allocation formula, review fair student funding and the weights for fiscal year 2025, which aligns with the 2024-25 school year. This presentation reflects our continued approach in how New York City Public Schools is conducting community engagement around our school budgets as it relates to the Fair Student Funding Formula. Our goal is to increase our transparency in ensuring that you as critical community stakeholders are made aware of how schools are funded and made aware of the resources available to you to better understand your school's budgets. I appreciate you joining me. I appreciate joining your meeting today, and we'll dive into this presentation, which will start now with our agenda. So today I'm going to be discussing three main topics: an overview of this year's overall New York City Public Schools budget, a detailed explanation of the Fair Student Funding Formula, and a walkthrough of the new web pages created to increase budget transparency. If you have any questions during the presentation, please direct them to the chat. If in person, we'll hold questions to the end. We'll have team members ready to respond to those questions. Questions that we're not able to answer during the presentation will be collected and shared with the New York Public Schools team, who will then respond and I will share back with the group. Additionally, the intention of this session is to collect public comments on the formula for the upcoming school year. We ask that if you have specific feedback on the weights for the fair student funding formula, that you please feel free to share that feedback with budget public comments at schools.nyc.gov. I will share that in the chat a little bit later. Our New York City Public Schools team will take public comments received at this email address into consideration in the coming weeks. So where can I find information about my school's budget? The city has established a webpage that is accessible to all of our schools. I'll be providing an overview of our overall New York City Public Schools budget and our district budget. I will not be reviewing individual school budgets at this time. Those are accessible on our public website. The slide that you have in front of you details the steps from our homepage. I'll give everyone a minute to use the information to load your specific budget if you are interested. So I'm just going to quickly show you guys, because there is just one little thing that is different from what is in the slide deck to what you're going to actually see on the DOE site. So what that page calls for is going to find a school that you'll find at the top of the New York City Department of Education page. It will bring you to this space where you then can enter in your school, just as an example, PS20. Of course, it's being stuck. There we go. You click on the school, and then it will open you up to this page. Now, what it does say in, oh, look at that, it's fixed. Oh, that's funny. So as I was doing this upstairs, just to double check all of the links were working, this was just switched. So now I don't have to worry about telling you that there was an issue. So you go to the reports page, the reports link, and then there is a section that says budget and finances. And in the budget and finances section, you'll see an overview. You'll see the funding detail, the Galaxy allocation, the budget summary, and the expenditure report. Now, each of these gives you a different set of information that you can look at to get an idea of what's going on budgetarily in the school. The budget summary will actually give you the viewpoint of the number of teachers per grade, how much of an allocation was spent on that, and so on. Excuse me, and all details as part of the budget are also downloadable here, should you want to use that feature. But feel free to use this as you see fit. The Galaxy allocation, you will see when you click on the Galaxy allocation, these are all of the items that the school, the funding sources that a school would receive, so that you can get an idea of where the money and the dollars are coming from. So I'm not going to spend time going through individual places. I just want to make sure that everyone could see how to get to it. And I'll go back into the regular slide deck now. Okay. So where does the funding come from? I'm now going to provide an overview of our overall budget and where the funding comes from. This data is based on the most recent budget, including the mayor's January plan. Our total budget for the 23-24 school year is $39.3 billion, or about $31,000 per student in our system. New York City provides most of our funding for the 23-24 school year. The city contributed $21 billion, or 52% of our total budget. Most of our city funding comes from what we call city tax levy dollars. City tax levy dollars are drawn from local taxes, including property taxes, sales taxes, and personal income taxes. Every year, the mayor proposes the amount of city tax levy funding we get, and the city council must pass the budget into law before the new fiscal year begins on July 1. $14 billion, or 36%, comes from New York State funding. New York State is our second largest source of funding. Every year, the governor proposes the amount of state funding that we will get, mainly based on the number and types of students enrolled in our schools. And then the state legislature must pass the budget into law before the new fiscal year begins on May 1st. Funding generally comes from income and corporate taxes, as well as property and sales taxes. Federal funding comprises a total of $4 billion, or 11% of our funding for this school year. The federal government is our third largest source of funding. Every year, Congress proposes a budget, and the president must sign the budget into law in advance of the new fiscal year, which begins on October 1st. The Every Student Succeeds Act provides the rules for allocating most of the federal funding we receive. Just to give you an overview of how New York City public schools budgets are spent. In the previous slide, we covered an overview of where New York City Public Schools receives its funding from, and now we will shift into how that funding is spent in our schools and across our system. Within our budget, we have mandated costs that must be covered annually, including employee benefits, pension, and debts, as well as state mandated payments to charter schools, non-public and contract schools. This pie chart represents the major costs. I will provide a brief explanation of each section. And let's begin with early childhood, located towards the bottom right-hand side of the pie chart. We allocate $2 billion to support early childhood, birth to 5 across the city. Secondly, employee benefits, pension, and debt. This is $10.8 billion and pays for healthcare and other employee benefits, pension payments for staff, debt payments on loans for school construction and upgrades. Third, we allocate 8% or $3 billion for charter schools as mandated by state law. Non-public and contract schools. Non-public and contract school payments covers schools and programs that educate New York City students, but are not directly run by the New York City Department of Education. The $2.6 billion includes students with disabilities attending specialized schools and supplemental services to students attending non-public schools. Superintendent field offices and central offices combined comprise approximately 1.5% of our overall budget. The school operations section pays for non-instructional services that students receive. The $4.8 billion is used to pay for costs, including free breakfast and lunch available to all students, bus routes, loan payments on buildings, that includes new construction and renovation. And this is similar to mortgage payments. And lastly, the large proportion of our budget is allocated towards K-12 schools and instruction. We allocate $15.2 billion, or 39% of our overall budget annually, to support our schools, including general education teachers, counselors, deans, health and climate initiatives such as gym teachers, Respect for All Week, and climate action days, special education, after-school activities, summer school, and other operating expenses. This also includes funding for textbooks, computers, materials, and supplies. Now transitioning from city view, let's take a look at the budget and funding source breakdown for our district. Again, this will not cover the breakdown by school. You can find that on the New York City Public School site, as I had mentioned. As you can see here in District 25, we have a $470 million budget across our pre-K to 12 schools, serving upwards of 30,000+ students, including pre-K centers. This does not include District 75, since those programs are not funded through fair student funding. School budgets are comprised of a mix of fair student funding and other funding sources. So who decides how the money will be spent? Once this funding is in place within school budgets, principals are responsible for the funds allocated to schools and have a great deal of flexibility in how to spend that funding. These choices are made in partnership with school leadership teams at the local level. As principals and school leadership teams create the comprehensive education plan, they identify school-specific instructional needs and priorities and align the school budget to this plan. Principals work with their SLTs to create the school budget in alignment to the goals and instructional priorities outlined in the CEP. Superintendents like myself supervise all principals in our district through this process and must approve all school budgets and their alignment with their CEPs. Now, this particular school year, our schools are aligning their goals to district goals, which are connected to improving reading outcomes in grades K to 2, making sure that we're promoting Mind Up across our buildings for our social emotional learning needs, really building out our MTSS plans and implementation of HMH across our schools in across our district in grades K through 8, and building on our mathematics work in our grades across grades 4 through 8 across our district. So all of our schools have aligned their goals accordingly to that, and then align their action plans and budgets as such. So what is fair student funding? Fair student funding, or FSF, is the largest funding stream that we provide to schools. In fact, it accounts for nearly 2/3 of most K-12 New York City public school budgets. As discussed on the previous slide, the allocation of fair student funding provided to schools is based on the number of students enrolled at each school and the specific needs of those students. We make these calculations based on our fair student funding formula, which calculates how we distribute this overall pot of money to schools. Within the formula, students with needs that require more support receive more funding in alignment with those needs. In many cases, schools also receive funding from other funding streams, including federal funding streams like Title I, Title III, IDEA, which is funding focused on special education, or other targeted allocations for specific initiatives. These pots make up the remaining funding within the overall school budget. The current school year, 23-24, is the final year of federal pandemic era funding. $2 billion of federal stimulus funds expire in the current year. New York City Public Schools is working with our partners at the City Office of Management and Budget, OMB, to address the cliff being caused by these expiring dollars. As a note, charter schools, 3K and pre-K, and D75 programs are funded outside of the fair student funding formula. Additionally, mandated IEP-related services, including speech teachers, occupational therapists, and physical therapists, as well as one-to-one paraprofessionals, are also funded outside the fair student funding formula. Excuse me. Again, the money provided to schools from fair student funding allocation provides principals with significant flexibility, working in partnership with their SLTs to utilize the funding to design instructional programs tailored to the needs of their students within their school community. Funding from the fair student funding allocation provides each school's basic instructional program and classroom services. This funding can be used to pay for classroom teachers, including arts, gym, and cluster teachers at the elementary level, as well as school leadership, guidance counselors, social workers, and administrative pupil support staff. Additionally, fair student funding allocation can pay for after-school programs, tutoring, and intervention programs, as well as teacher absent coverages and classroom resources and materials. So how does this work? So throughout this presentation, we've been talking about fair student funding and the fair student funding formula. When we say fair student funding, we are talking about the money that is allocated in across schools in K-12 from this large pot, not including pre-K or District 75 programs. The fair student funding formula is the method by which we decide how to allocate that funding to schools. The slide outlines the formula and how we utilize the formula to calculate the total amount of fair student funding that each school receives. Now I'm going to walk you through how we utilize the formula to determine how much fair student funding each school receives and how we determine that specific dollar amount. Off the top, each school receives a foundational amount which is provided to every school, regardless of the number of students that the school serves. This covers per school overhead costs such as the principal and school secretary. Then we calculate the remainder of the fair student funding by allocating a base amount for each student per capita, and then allocating additional funding based on each student's identified educational needs and instructional programs. It is in this part of the formula that we take into account the weights that we have been referring to throughout the presentation. We then add funding to the formula for collective bargaining related costs, which is contractual pay increases for school staff. This ensures schools can afford to keep up with growing salary costs. Given the new set of collective bargaining agreements, we are looking at ways to update the formula. Looking at ways to update the formula. On the next slide, we will dive more deeply into the weights that we utilize to determine the specific dollar amount that we allocate per student so that you have a clear understanding of what goes into this part of the formula. I also want to pause here to reiterate that within this formula, we take the time to examine the individual needs of each student to determine funding allocations. We make these individualized allocations for each student aligned to their individual and specific needs and educational program to determine how much funding would be provided to that school for each student. So what you will see here on this slide are the weights that are provided for each school. So for what you'll see at the top is grades K through 5 comes with a weight of 1. Grades 6 through 8 comes with a weight of 1.08, and grades 9 through 12 with a 1.03 as kind of their base weight for all students in the school. This chart shows the proposed weights. That means if approved by the panel for educational policy in April, these weights will be used to calculate the school's fair student funding allocation for the 24-25 school year. The slide displays the fair student funding weights for the current school year 23-24, which are proposed to be maintained for the 24-25 school year. Here you can see the different types of weights that students can be eligible to receive based on their instructional needs or academic programs. Now, to more deeply understand the weights that we use to calculate that last part of the formula from the previous slide, the number of students per fair student funding category and their FSF weight, fair student funding weighted needs. Each student's weighted need is determined by the fair student funding formula. Now we'll explain the different weights on this slide. For 23-24, the base weight of 1 was equal to approximately $4,237 per capita. This per capita is adjusted annually to reflect changes to the citywide average teacher salary. The basic grade weight is allocated to schools for all students on their audited October 31st register and is calculated by considering instructional programming requirements by student grade level with distinct weights for K-5, 6-8, and 9-12, as I already mentioned. Funding for academic intervention is determined by student academic performance when a student enters a school, using test scores from their prior year. For schools where students do not have incoming test scores in the lower grades, such as before students begin taking tests, or if they do not have prior test scores, we provide funding based on the student's poverty level. Funding for special education is determined by the percentage of time students spend receiving special education services. For example, we have one weight for students receiving services for less than 20% of their week, another weight funding students receiving part-time services for up to 59% of their week, and a final weight for students receiving more than 60% of their time receiving special education services. These special education weights are then also broken out by student grade level with a specific weighting value, again determined based on the cost of providing the instructional program. We also provide supplemental funding that supports students who have been declassified as special education students. This funding supports students in their first year transitioning out of special education services through the post-IEP transitional support weight. Funding for English language learners is allocated based on student grade level, reflecting mandated instructional services, including bilingual and E&L instructional programming. Additionally, we have weights for former Ls who have achieved proficiency within the past 2 years, indicated using the state designated term commanding. We also provide funding for Ls and students with interrupted formal education status. Students with this classification receive their respective L weight in addition to the SIFE weight. We also have another category of weights for portfolio high schools. These weights are provided to schools based on the number of students who are involved in these academic programs within each high school. Career and technical weights have different tiers based on the type of career preparation programs. Programs that require more resources such as nursing, agriculture and veterinary, aviation, technology, automotive, culinary, and so on, require industry-specific equipment, higher level of consumable supplies and materials, student internship requirements that are integral to the program of study, and highly specialized and ongoing industry training for teachers have higher weights to support that instructional programming. There are also separate weights for students in specialized academic or specialized audition schools and for students attending transfer schools. The transfer school weight is broken out into 2 tiers based on students' age and credit accumulation. Transfer school students who are further behind in credits at the time of admission receive a higher weight. Only students attending high schools are eligible for these portfolio weights. Funding for students in temporary housing was introduced in the current school year, marking a significant shift in how we allocate resources to our students, with this specific focus on supporting students who reside in temporary housing. This has an impact on our asylum-seeking families who are living in temporary housing, providing additional resources to the schools enrolling STH populations. Funding for the concentration of needs weight provides additional funding to schools with high populations of students with significant needs. This weight was also introduced in the current school year. Research shows that schools that serve higher concentrations of students with high needs require additional resources to provide robust education, appropriate resources, and supports to their students. The concentration weight includes factors for proportion of students who are in poverty, students with disability, students who are in temporary housing, students residing in foster care, English language learners, and students with low performance as key indicators of concentrations of need. So as you can see here, you notice that there are different weights for each of these particular categories regards to academic intervention, students in temporary housing, English language learners, special education, portfolio high schools, and concentration of needs broken into those 3 tiers. You'll see an example in a moment of how that is all broken down. How the FSF weights work. If the per capita were $1. We just took a look at all of the weights that students could be eligible to receive within the Fair Student Funding Formula allocation. I also shared that as we are calculating that formula for each school, we take into account the instructional needs of each individual student within the school as we determine school's overall budget allocations. In this slide, we will take a look at how each student's calculation is determined. The different types of weights are indicated by color on the right side of the slide. Show that. Okay, here we go. In order to determine the weight for each student, we evaluate their eligibility for the weight based on data in New York City public school systems that store key information about students. Now we're going to walk you through the process for how Fair Student Funding would be allocated for 2 students, Ava and Miles, through the Fair Student Funding formula. Ava and Miles are 2 students who attend a school in our district. Ava is a 2nd grader and Miles is a 6th grader. The orange section shows the grade weight they first received. Because Ava is a 2nd grade student, he is entitled to the K-5 grade weight of 1, again shown on the left graph in orange. Since Miles is a 6th grader, he is entitled to the grade weight of 1.08. If they were a high school student, they would receive a weight of 1.03. Both students are students with disabilities requiring special education classroom services, of special education teacher services, either sets, special class, or integrated co-teaching. AVA's individual education program states greater than 60% of AVA's instructional program to be spent in an ICT setting. Therefore, AVA is entitled to the full-time, more inclusive special education weight of 1.74, shown in navy blue on the left. Miles' individual education program requires less than 20% of Miles' instructional program to be in an IEP setting. Therefore, Sam is entitled, that was a typo, Miles is entitled to less than 20%, the low intensity special education weight of 0.56, shown in blue on the right. Both Ava and Miles are classified as English language learners, shown in yellow. Ava is an elementary school, former multilingual learner who tested out of L status within the last 2 years. Because New York State requires 2 additional years of English language learner, English as a new language service for former Ls, she is entitled to the K-5 E&L weight of 0.13. Miles is also a multilingual learner. Miles is enrolled at a bilingual program at his middle school. The school has appropriately coded Miles as enrolled in a bilingual program in STARS. As such, Miles is entitled to the 6 to 8 bilingual weight of 0.55. Both Ava and Miles are entitled to academic intervention services weight, shown in red. Ava is a student in poverty, and therefore they are entitled to the Fair Student Funding academic intervention weight of 0.212, shown in red on the left. Miles is a student who entered the school in 6th grade with 5th grade test scores that were below proficiency. As a result, he's entitled to the AIS weight of 0.35, shown in red on the right. Both Ava and Miles are students in temporary housing, shown in green. As such, they both receive the STH weight of 0.12. Both Ava and Miles attend schools with high concentrations of student needs, shown in pink. Ava attends a tier 3 school, the highest concentration of need, and is entitled to a 0.12 weight. Miles attends a school with lower concentrations of need, which does not receive the weight. The concentration of needs is shown in the pink bar at the top for Ava. When you add all the pieces together, Ava's allocation through Fair Student Funding formula would total a weight of 3.23, while Miles' allocation would total 2.7. Because each weight of 1 is equal to $4,237, Ava's weight of 3.23 is equal to approximately $13,686, while Miles' weight of 2.66 is equal to approximately $11,270 under the Fair Student Funding formula. More information is available online about Fair Student Funding budgets. You can find the following online on the New York City Public Schools Info Hub under Reports and Financial Data and Reports. Detailed information about each and every school budget allocation in the form of school allocation memoranda or SAMs, a summary of each school's total and Fair Student Funding budget along with student and staff counts, a programmatic guide to Fair Student Funding, as well as how the Fair Student Funding allocation is calculated for each school. You can find the following online on each individual school webpage under Reports, which is what I showed you earlier, Budget and Finances. And you can see that on slide 3 where I represented it earlier. Detailed information of the school's budget based on the different types of funding schools receive, and detailed information as to how the principal has budgeted for the school year, including the number of staff positions and other planned spending can be found there. In February and March, given initial budget estimates of city and state revenue, New York City Public Schools superintendents present the CECs with a proposed Fair Student Funding weights for the coming year. That's this presentation. Excuse me. In April, the panel for educational policy votes on the proposed Fair Student Funding budget weights for the coming school year. In late spring, New York City Public Schools released budget allocations to schools. In June, principals, along with their school leadership teams, proposed budgets for the coming year. In July, I and my team will certify alignment between schools' budgets and comprehensive education plans for the coming year. In September, the new school year begins. So in terms of improving budget transparency, new school budget at a glance web pages are coming soon. New web pages improving transparency will be made available. In addition, the current in addition to the current web pages detailing each school's Galaxy allocations and budget summary, a new school budget at a glance brings together data on student enrollment, demographics, budget allocations, and use of funds. The new look also compares school demographic information to citywide averages. Under K-12 funding for this school, you can see the school budget allocations rolled up into major funding categories. You can also see how each of these is a share of the school's budget. For this school, Fair Student Funding makes up 74% of their budget. Under K-12 spending for this school, you can see the budget summary rolled up into spending categories: classroom teachers, other salaries, employee benefits, and non-salaries, known as OTPS, generally for supplies, materials, books, and so on. So all public comments will be reviewed by New York City Public Schools team. Public questions and comments related to the Fair Student Funding Formula will be posted on the Panel for Educational Policy website. Analysis and response of each relevant question and comment will be available for review on the Fair Student Funding website in advance of the April 17th vote. Comments and questions may be directed to the following email address or number by April 16th, 2024. We will add this into the chat. Louis, if you're on, could you add that to the chat for me, please?
Yeah.
I thank you tremendously for your time and attention today. Thank you for sharing your, in advance for sharing any questions that you may have regarding this presentation in the chat. We'll be gathering any of these any unanswered questions and sharing those responses with you after we receive any of those, any of the feedback for you. So that concludes the Fair Student Funding presentation. At least let me make sure that I have. Yes, and we are now to a space of audience questions around budgeting. You know, in large part, our school budgets, you know, as a principal and managing the budget, it was often around, you know, looking at those funding streams and making sure that we were making the optimal use of them. And that is something that, you know, that Paula also helps our schools do in terms of the number of teachers that that we can hire, the number of paraprofessionals that we can hire, you know, school aides, counselors, you name it, it all is based on what our budget can sustain. Sometimes our schools would love to say, you know what, we want X number of teachers, but it's not necessarily realistic given the number of children that we have in our building and the needs that the children have. So schools that have very high populations that have these added weights certainly come with them with more money that will allow them to hire other people to provide the services. So we do pay very close attention to Fair Student Funding. Any schools that do receive Title I funding in our district, which we do have many of them, to assist in this process of organizing funds to support next steps. But if anyone has any questions, both myself and Paula are here to help answer them.
Thank you, Dr. Mike.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm very glad to see that they're trying to make this very transparent, you know, that, you know, parents can access and find out what's the spending and budgets for their child's school. So I'm happy to see that. Anyone have any questions? Comments? I was wondering, so with this year budget, 2023-2024, was the federal stimulus money still part of the budget? Yeah, so 2024-2025, we
So
will
it
not.
expires, yeah, so part of what's you know, within the presentation that they were calling around, you know, connecting with their partners from OMB is to really organize around how that $2 billion, what we can kind of look at as now a shortfall, it's no longer there, right? You know, how do they organize around you know, supporting that space? But yeah, that does expire at the end of this year.
Do you guys foresee any setbacks?
At this time, I have not heard that there would be any significant changes to our school, which is,
Right.
you know, the budget formula that they're using is aligned with what was being used this year. So it's not separate and apart. You know, they're not changing it and reducing weights, not changing and reducing the per capita that our schools are receiving.
Yeah.
And Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what my understanding is.
About the same,
Yeah.
except for like, you know, any collective bargaining, so
Yeah.
that extra money is given to the schools for that. So if we should have like a pretty good year next year,
Okay.
except with the stimulus money, we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not gonna be there, but certain schools that might depend on it, they might end up doing something with them, I'm not sure yet.
Would you happen to know whether Summer Rising will we'll have.
Summarizing is
Yeah.
still moving forward.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
And Dr. Mike, how does the phasing in of the smaller class sizes, how does that get reflected? Is that the weighting of one equaling $4,230 some? Does that change, or sort of how does this affect the budget?
Yes.
As you're gonna drop the class sizes?
Yeah, that's a good question in terms of budgeting. I know their process is to build across, that space 20% over the course of the next several years. Whether or not that's reflected in that per capita, I don't necessarily have the answer, but I will find out for you. I would imagine that we'll have to wind up making adjustment over the course of time when that is fully realized across all of the schools. Because it would involve more staffing, more needs with fewer children. So by nature, per capita would likely have to go up because of that. But that I will double check on what those next phases of transparency will be in the space.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Are there any comments or questions in the chat? Oh, where can we, I think someone asked, where can we find?
Yeah, Louis
Okay.
put them in the
Okay, okay. So that will conclude the fair student funding presentation. Again, thank you, Dr. Mike.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So since we're all here now, we did not approve, we need to approve the January minutes. So we will do that. If you can take a look at January minutes and so that we can. And then we will move forward to new business and followed by public speaking time, which.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, okay, Eden made the motion to approve the minutes and Shirley second. All right, so January minutes approved. Okay, new business. So we've been in contact, Carly's been in contact with the Queen Zoo. We will have a family day in April. So we will vote on what day to hold that event. So the CEC is sponsoring 1,000 tickets for families to visit Queen Zoo. And we are down to either Saturday, April 20th or April 27th. That is the beginning, either the beginning of the spring break or the end of spring break.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody's
Oh, okay. So Shirley had suggested that April 27 would be better.
I agree. Yeah, because everybody's starting to go on a vacation.
Okay. Anyone on this side? What do you prefer? Or
What were the options?
Saturday, April 20th or April 27th? I'm good either date. And then we will, once the date is decided, we'll have a flyer. We will send it out to the public. We'll also announce it at our next meeting, which is March 6th. So, Catherine, what do you care which day it is? The 20th or the 27th?
No, so that's
Frank,
either or, I mean, maybe the 27th, but that's the end of the.
Joe?
I won't be around.
Oh.
CEC World.
Oh, that's an even better place to be.
Sorry.
The 27th falls right in actually
Middle.
the middle.
Yes.
So maybe the 20th would be better, the 27th, yeah.
No, 27th isn't it? It's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday, April.
Yeah, but it's in the middle of the
Another day
spring
off.
break,
Yeah, Monday
we
I'll.
still have Monday off,
Oh,
and Tuesday, the 30th.
oh. Well, we have to, well, okay.
So wouldn't that be better? 'Cause-
Yeah.
I don't know, Because I heard a lot of parents leaving early for the vacation, like 20 to go home.
We can,
Oh, no, don't do that.
Or is actually.
No leaving early, please.
yeah,
Because
we can have the same problem, whether it's on the 20th or the 27th. We have, there's gonna be families that's gonna go away in the beginning of the spring break or towards the end of the spring break.
You're not gonna have a bad turnaround.
Yeah.
Sell out and actually
No.
people beg for more tickets.
Oh,
They're gonna
yeah.
sell out tickets. Give it to me.
teacher.
We're all looking for
Yeah.
things to do with their kids, especially during a break. You won't have a ticket.
Okay.
They should have to put it on.
So I guess we'll do a roll call and then just give us which date you prefer, either the 20th or the 27th, okay? Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I mean, is the expectation that we can be there, because I can't be there.
That's fine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But, I mean, some of you do have.
I know, I will be there. As always.
It's 27.
All right.
The 20th, okay.
You want to
20th.
do roll call?
You make sure they're
Yeah.
not gonna be around.
What? Joseph, Mr. Chow,
Please tell me this. All right. Bring you,
April 27th.
Just
Karoon. Okay, right now. Frank, 27. Joseph Chow, what day?
Pick a day.
Huh?
He's gonna take,
20th or 27th?
20th.
Sounds good. Shirley?
27.
Alvin? Tom?
27th.
Eden?
27.
Robert?
It seems like there's more 27, so I'll go with that. More bodies.
The 27th is fine.
Don?
20th.
And Jonathan?
Can I change my date?
Sure.
Oh. I knew that was happening.
27th.
Yeah, so it's 127.
27.
That is on.
so there is no obligation for, anyone, if you're away or cannot attend, it's fine. I do hope that some of you will be around and will be able to attend. All right, so we have decided April the 27th as the date for the event. We will create a flyer to send out to the schools, the PCs at the schools, and we'll also make a formal announcement at our March meeting. Okay. And then the other new business is that our admin Carly is leaving us. Her last day is the 23rd, February 23rd. I will surely miss her. She's been a great resource and help through the transition to this new council. And, I hope, we will be able to manage. Our next, yeah, and so Faith will be posting this job listing for a new admin assistant on the DOE website, right?
We received
Yeah, we already received a lot of interest. We received a lot of resumes, which I've sent to all the members. We will be forming a hiring committee at the business meeting. And to go through, to vet out the candidates. So, okay, so anyone else with any new business? Okay.
I just wanted to share with everyone, on Monday, there was another UFT teaching center open at PS 193.
I didn't include that in my deck.
So they had a great turnout, did some performances from the orchestra, Chinese New Year celebration. And they had their ribbon cutting ceremony, so there's another teaching center in the district now.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone else with any new business you want to share? Okay, so I think Lamar,
Lamar?
hi Lamar, how are you?
Hello, Good evening, everyone. Wait, where's my face?
There you are. We see you. Go Yankees.
Yeah, it's the only way to go. Evening, everyone. How are you? Hope you're all doing well. I just wanted to give some updates and announcements from the UFTN and from District 25 as a whole. So I want to first announce these weeks are a blur, so pardon me if I forget. But I think it was last week we had our first annual District 25 Family Night, our annual one. We went to the UBS Arena, as I mentioned at our last meeting, to catch the Islanders against Florida. It was a very well-attended event. I'm very happy for the turnout and that the people who did attend had a great time. It was great to see you all. That Dr. Mike was there with his family. Thank you very, very much for supporting. So I would say we had about 120, 130 UFT teachers, staff members in and out of the district who showed up. So at the conclusion of the event, I had a conversation with the ticket representative, the Islanders representative who I was working with on this. And he promised me that next year we get first dibs on doing a Rangers versus Islanders game at UBS Arena. So if that comes to pass, I'm very, very excited about that. That'd be really, really good. I don't envision that the tickets will be open long. I think we'll probably have like a month window because clearly those tickets are going to run fast. So, but the fact that we have that opportunity is a very, very good, it's a good turnout from the event. So thank you everyone who attended. We'll hope to do more and more of these. Also, on the political end, we have a special election coming up on February 13th. You may have heard about it by now. I would imagine we all have in our area. Tom Swazi is running against Mazi Palit for the New York's 3rd Congressional District. Part of that New York 3rd Congressional District is in our area. It's Whitestone. There's a little bit of Flushing in that space. And I think there maybe even be, there's pieces of Bayside, and then it cuts into District 26 with Little Neck and some other neighborhoods. So Queens has a stake in this race, and the UFT is supporting Tom in his campaign to fill in the seat that was vacated by George Santos, if you remember, who was expelled in December. So we are working extremely hard in the community to get the vote out to our members, to other union members, making sure that people understand the importance of voting in this election. It's a special election. There's only one other election actually going on February 13th. It's in the Bronx. But really, it's us, these two spaces, these two districts, that's for an assembly seat. And it's safe to say that the entire country, or a good chunk of the political country, will be paying attention to this race. And when you watch the big board on CNN or MSNBC and they start zooming in on counties and they start projecting votes that come in, it's pretty safe to say that the first county that they're going to focus on is Queens County. So it's important that we have a strong turnout. And the last couple of weekends have been absolutely wonderful in terms of member support and in terms of, the community volunteering and lending time. We had a great, great turnout these last 2 weekends. We have one more day of action, which is this Saturday, the 10th. So if by chance you see me knocking on your door, I'm not asking to lend sugar, to borrow sugar. I'm giving you a flyer and I'm telling you to vote. Come out and vote on February 13th. We're going to have a lot of members coming out. So this is a great event for everyone, just in terms of getting to be a part of the community as well. And lastly, within our UFT world, there is a lot of talk on mayoral control. And I wanted to speak on that a little bit. Each borough had a town hall dedicated to mayoral control, where the community spoke whether they were in favor of it or whether they were against mayoral control. Our position within the UFT is that we are against mayoral control as it is currently constructed. And we are looking to change mayoral control to a way that's more equitable for his role, the mayor's role, regardless of who has that seat, and the community who's a part of the PEP, the Panel for Educational Policy. There are 23 PEP members. 13 of them are chosen by the mayor. So in essence, whenever there's an endeavor that City Hall and the mayor's office and the chancellor want to go forward, when the vote goes to the PEP, it's a rubber stamp. Every vote is going to be passed in favor of the mayor. That is not an example of equity that we're looking for. We're looking for a better system of checks and balances. And by the way, this is something that has not started with Mayor Adams. Mayoral control goes back to Michael Bloomberg, and then it passed through Bill de Blasio, and now it's on Mayor Adams's lap. And every year we have these discussions, every term, every couple of years, about restructuring mayoral control. We want a space where there's more equity involved. We want a space where there's more of a voice on the parental front. Our president, Michael Mulgrew, did some studies of other cities that have examples of mayoral control. For example, Cleveland. The mayor picks members for their version of the PEP, but those members have already gone through a different screening, which the mayor has no say on. So it's not as if you are blindly picked or arbitrarily picked by the mayor. In Ohio and Cleveland, there's a process where people have been already vetted, and then the final group gets picked by the mayor. That's an example. So we're looking for something in New York that reflects that. We're looking for something in New York that reflects equity, that reflects the checks and balances. And we're hoping that we can speak with our legislators, and we have our local legislators here, our state senators, our assembly members, and that we can come to an agreement on a proper example of mayoral control. Without letting the cat out the bag, the major concern is there are issues that are going forward in schools, and we think that if the mayor doesn't want to have those issues go forward, he'll just put it to the PEP, his 13-10 advantage, and then it won't go forward. And I'm going to leave it there. So we really want to see a better form of equity, a better form of checks and balances. And that message was sent throughout the 5 boroughs in those town halls. And I assume that we're really going to continue and push this endeavor going forward. That's my report, and I hope you all have a great evening. I hope January and February have been nice to you. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Lamar.
Thank you.
I think I emailed a resolution that was brought to my attention. I emailed the resolution to all the members about this mayoral control. I don't know if you all took a look. The CEC that forwarded this resolution to me, they were in favor of continuing mayoral control. And I think this is something that if we even decide to vote on something like this, on this issue, I think we can discuss further in March. So that would, give the council more time to look into this and, learn about this and come back in March and, discuss it. Okay.
I think that'd be a great idea. I think that'd be a great opportunity. Yes.
Okay, great. So there was Daphne from our Councilwoman Vicky Palladino's office has some events that she likes to share. So Daphne.
Hi, how are you? Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to share that I sent out a flyer to all the schools and the district office as well for the story time event that we're having next Friday. It is actually the day before they go on vacation. Our staff is going to read our favorite stories, and we're inviting all the students in the district to come in dressed in their pajamas, bring a little blanket, come into the office. So it's next Friday. The flyers are already in the schools. It's at 6:30 till 8 o'clock next week. Also, we're still hosting our Super Bowl event to feed the hungry. So we have cans of soup that we're collecting in our office. That's until this coming weekend. And of course, as always, we have our veterans events for any parents in the district or anyone that you know that has veterans in their family. Every 2 weeks, I have a flyer. You can call our office actually, but the next day that they're coming in is the 28th. And the last thing that I'd like to share from the Councilwoman is that on March the 1st, we are going to have our mammogram truck again. We're going to do free screening that the councilwoman is doing on March the 1st. For any other information, you can please call the office and we can share the flyers via email. The number at the office is 718-619-8611. Looking forward to hearing from you and seeing you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Daphne. Are there anyone else on the chat that wants to speak? Okay. I think some of the audience have left. And so if there are nothing else that the members want
Wendy,
to,
there was just a couple of things that were up higher that I know that was
Oh.
193 that I do want to make
Okay.
sure that there was a concern about whether or not the boilers were, the temporary boiler was still in good working order. My understanding is that that's been checked. It is up to code and,
okay.
you know, is still functioning. I know there was a question that I saw something about it, you know, concern about it being of it exploding or things of that nature. So I did inquire about just the safety of the burner of the boiler itself. So they did share with me that you know, it was still, you know, the boiler's up to code and is still doing what it needs to do to heat. I know that there are concerns certainly still about the air quality, and we will continue to follow up with the SCA to support future and ongoing testing of the air quality, as was mentioned in the chat. That's something that I've already asked for and inquired about, and Principal Zabrowski is too. So I just wanted to make sure it was in there. I didn't want the chat to be unnoticed. So I did see it there. I wanted to make sure I did share about that.
Thank you, Dr. Mike. Yes.
Yeah.
Catherine?
You were able to touch base with SCA today?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
So, and then I know you mentioned something before about like sealing the windows maybe?
Yes.
But you just mean like weatherproofing sealing them, right? Not like sealing them shut entirely.
No, not sealing them shut.
Right,
No.
okay. Just
No.
like-
Yeah, it's
yeah,
the,
like that was a big one.
yeah, it's the, yeah, no, not to lock them in. No, no.
Just wanted
No, and I
to
think,
make sure
it really, you know, days where, you know, it's more of issue than others, I think is the direction the wind is blowing on a given day, impacts, you know, some of the smell that maybe perhaps is existing there, but needless to say, it's still a concern, and we're going to continue to follow up on it, but I didn't want that comment to go unnoticed that was there.
No, also, sorry, piggyback on that, I think one of the things is there was concern from what I was reading of like, to those certain classes that are more affected need to be relocated to another place in the building.
Yeah, so I've already talked with Principal Zabrowski about that. We can do that. You know, we can make the adjustments. Some of the pushback that I think was there too from some of our families is they didn't want it to be too much of a disruption either. But that is something that we can absolutely do for some of our classes if necessary. And I say if necessary because this what I have heard is that this is going to be completed within the next week or so. I heard mid-February. So we're already at the 7th. So I'm hoping this means that this is coming to a resolution sooner rather than later. But my office will continue to connect with SCA as well as Principal Zabrowski to keep on top of it. There was also a question around reports that is transparent. There's nothing that is not transparent about the reports from the air quality testing. So families can have that too if necessary. But my understanding is that it was deemed as not harmful for our kids. But that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be concern and such from our family. So because of that, we are going to continue to follow up until it's done. And hopefully that's next week.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Mike. And
No.
thank you to the parents, to Catherine Eden, you know, following up on this issue. You know, we want parents to come and, you know, let us know what, you know, some of the challenges or issues they're facing at their school so that we could address them. Is Pina still on? Does she want to speak? No, okay. So, does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn the general meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Alvin
Second.
motion and Eden second. We will take a quick 3 minutes break and then we'll come back and start the business meeting. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Have a good night.
evening.
Those of you hopping off.
Yeah, Happy New Year. So it's 9:11 p.m. and I am going to call the
It's
business
11.
meeting. Call the business meeting to order. So we'll do the quick roll call,
When you,
present.
Kamul Rashid, oh, he's here,
He's still here.
Frank Chow,
He's here.
He's here.
Joseph Chow,
Here.
Sun Young Lee,
Here.
Really good, thank you.
Alvin Hung,
Here,
Peter Ruth,
Here.
Robert Lazar,
present.
Catherine St. Pierre,
Here.
John Stewart.
Here.
Okay, so we have to, so yesterday we had the phase check-in meeting with Kate. And she has told us that we have to form a hiring committee. And the committee should not consist of all of us, all the members, and should only be a few of us. And so I have sent the resumes to everyone to kind of briefly look at what characteristics you would want in a new candidate. I had told Kate that, Carly, advised that the previous. Okay. So hopefully everyone got a chance to review the resume. And does anyone want to be on this hiring committee? Okay, Eden will be on this, okay, Shirley. Anyone, so what would you need to do, some of the responsibilities of the hiring committee is to, of course, review the resumes, right? Scheduling the interview with the candidate. Does the interview could be via Zoom, it's not in
Yeah, that she said
person,
we could do
right?
it
That's
virtually.
Zoom, yeah, virtual. So you have to reach out to the candidate and schedule the interview and then report back to the council. And we have to, if there's a candidate that you feel strongly about, then we
We
have,
schedule that on our own, or do we have to let Face know that we want to schedule it and have them?
I think we should notify them just as a
Okay.
precaution.
This is an extra
It'll be
question.
done through the Zoom, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
interview will be done through the Zoom. So yeah, you have to make sure that you'll be available and come up with questions, to ask the candidate. The question should be the same, so maybe if you should think about, a few 4 to 6 questions to ask the
And then we
candidate,
share.
yeah, I didn't.
You have to be honest. You have to be honest.
No, anyone on this side?
Right?
You
wanna be on the?
Oh,
Which is like,
Okay,
oh.
all right. Okay, so, okay. How many members do we have on the council? A total of 11 now or 10?
Yeah, you're right.
So, it would be good to have like 5 to 6. Okay, John, yeah, Alvin, so 1 to 5.
So 5.
Isn't 5 enough?
It's enough, yeah.
For the form, we need to.
You don't want to have analysis paralysis. You want the community
I'll do
small
it.
enough to function.
Okay, Catherine,
Yeah.
okay. So Catherine, Eden, Shirley, John, Alvin, and me.
That's the whole.
No, that's, no, John, Alvin, me, Shirley, Eden, and Catherine, that's 6.
I look forward to
That's
your
enough,
report.
yeah, that's.
We're not voting on anything at that point, right?
Yeah.
No, you're not.
So we're just. conducting.
Yeah, we're just interviewing,
And then we're fine.
and then we report back to the council, yeah.
Close it.
Can the other members,
The week of President's Week.
no, don't worry, because it's not going to be, yeah,
So they all have to apply first. before
Yeah.
you- before you can go there. That place has to open the position back up.
mm-hmm,
But I saw a lot of.
yeah, they were,
A
so Alvin said
lot of-
45.
A lot of, resume.
Yeah, some were like 3, 4 pages long, and
Some wouldn't open though.
some were
Wow.
long. Yes.
One of them was just like, you're a lawyer, you.
Oh, yes, I saw that.
Yes. Alvin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's good. That's one
it was.
So I guess the resumes that I forward it, right? If you see anyone, any resume that stand out to you, right? Then, you know, share it. Share it with the committee, right? And we can, so that the other members on the committee can also review it. And if we, you know, if the members agree to interview that candidate, then we can, you know, move forward from there. Okay, but we've asked Phase to open the job listings on DOE. Hopefully, you know, by, I don't know how long that would take for Phase to do. So we will follow up with them. I will follow up with them.
But the resumes you sent have already applied.
Yeah, so I think there was other CEC that were looking for admin assistants. So that list, yeah, it was open. The job listing was open. So I think these were the resumes that was collected from the, you know, prior opening of the job listing. Yeah. So, okay. Any questions, comments? Okay, any? Yeah. Any, anything new? Anyone want to share? Okay, so then we can, you know, make motion to adjourn the business meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Eden make a motion to adjourn. Okay, and I second.
It's like, what we doing? Why not?
All right.
What time is it?
9:17. So the next meeting, March 6th, Carly will not be here.
No,
Okay.
fine. You do have the presentation for available language access service,
Yeah.
and that's to raise awareness on language access services support available to schools and families. And it will be here for the. Very good. Okay, thank you.
And then also, I was thinking, you know, we're doing an event in April. I think, you know, let's do like a year-end event.
You want us to stay in the one that we usually did, the
Like the-
student appreciation, student acknowledgement. They typically in June, they,
Oh, we have the award ceremony
Yeah,
that we have to
that's usually,
do.
yeah, in
Is
June.
that June?
Yeah.
Oh, but I'm thinking separate from that,
Sure.
like another family.
Yeah, I'd love that.
We do,
Yeah.
you know, like the
100%.
book giving
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, we can definitely do that.
Mhm.
And I
think
know
the
that our
location-
elected officials are willing to participate, I'm sure too.
Yeah.
They've kind of talked about,
Mhm.
you know.
Oh, okay, I mean, cause it's year end and, yeah.
Still there.
Yeah, I'm definitely for that. In
Yes,
fact,
yes,
the
yes.
one at the one that you're gonna do in April,
Mhm.
I can work with my team.